Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Lord Ramachandra became king during Treta Yuga, but because of his good government, the age was like Satya Yuga. Everyone was religious and completely happy. Purport. Among the four yugas, Satya, Treta, Drupa and Kali, Kali Yuga is the worst. We can all agree with that. Yeah? But if the process of Varnashram Dharma is introduced, even in this age of Kali, the situation of Satya Yuga can be invoked. The Hare Krishna movement or Krishna consciousness movement is meant for this purpose. Kali dosha nide rajam astiyeka mahakuna kirtanat eva Krishna sya mukta sangha param vrajet. My dear King, although Kali Yuga is full of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. Srimad Bhagavatam 12.3.51. If people like to take to this Sankirtan movement of chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, they will certainly be freed from the contamination of Kali Yuga, and the people of this age will be happy, as people were in Satya Yuga, the golden age. Anyone, anywhere can easily take to this Hare Krishna movement. One need only chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, observe the rules and regulations, and stay free from contamination of sinful life. Even if one is sinful and cannot give up sinful life immediately, if he chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra with devotion and faith, he will certainly be freed from all sinful activities and his life will be successful. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. This is the blessing of Lord Ramachandra, who has appeared in this age of Kali as Lord Gaurasundra. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshus Unmiritam Jaina Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Shrimati Shivaram Swamiti Namini. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastai Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nevasesa Sunyavadi Pastachade Sutarine Vanchakalpatrubhishya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanbhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Haribol. Just like to seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. It's been a while since I've sat here. It's a lot more comfortable now. It used to be a slope, didn't it? Jai. Thank you for Nandan Prabhu for finally asking me to give class. Jai. It's difficult giving class when you only get to give class once every 6-7 months, so please be patient with me. If I say anything which is inappropriate, please forgive me. And I hope I say something to inspire you and not to uninspire you. Actually, we're not qualified to sit here. This is the seat of Vyasadev. Our only qualification is that we simply repeat what we've heard from the spiritual master, from the previous acharyas. That's the only qualification. So if I can repeat what I've heard, then I suppose it would be a success. This is a really nice verse here. Describing how Lord Ramachandra was such a great ruler that even though it was Treta Yuga, the atmosphere became like Satya Yuga, and everyone was completely happy. Because after all, this life is meant for achieving happiness, either on a lower level or a higher level. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that the atmosphere of Satya Yuga can again be evoked if we establish Varnashram Dharma. And then he goes on to explain how to do that, how to establish Varnashram. And in the middle there's the verse, Kali dosha nide rajan nastyekam hatkuna. that in this age of Kali, everyone, it's an age full of faults. Actually, there are no good qualities in this age. This is a verse from the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And there's a similar verse in the first canto, chapter 16, starting from text 21, where Parikshit Maharaj is traveling throughout the planet, and he comes across Bhumi in the form of a cow. And then he asks her what's up, what's happening, because she's very distressed, she's crying. And then she explains. And then the qualities of Kali Yuga are explained. Srila Prabhupada explains in the Bhagavatam, he says that the perfection of the human form of life is achieved by following 3 principles of civilization. And those 3 principles are the protection of cows, maintaining Brahminical culture, and above all, to become a pure devotee of the Lord. And then he explains, he says, unless one becomes a devotee, he cannot perfect his human form of life. The perfection of human life means to obtain the spiritual kingdom. So, a civilization which is bereft of these 3 principles is no longer a civilization fit for human beings. It is now a civilization for animals. I'm not going to go through the descriptions of Kali Yuga because I'm sure we're all familiar. People are less intelligent. They're lazy, misguided, and above all, they're always disturbed. These are qualities. No intelligence. Just like I was on Sankirtan the other day and approached one man, gave him a book, and he said, I don't believe in nothing. I said, oh, so you believe in something? He said, no, I don't believe in nothing. I said, don't believe in nothing means you believe in something because you don't believe in nothing. He was using double negatives, so I was playing with him. It's good to have a sense of humor when you're on Sankirtan. And then he said, I don't believe in a God. He said, if there's a God, why doesn't he come and sort things out? I said, he's trying to sort you out right now, trying to get you to take a book, but you're not having it. So, he was joking. He was able to take that humour, so I gave it. You can't do that with everyone on Sankirtan, by the way. You got to. So then I could see it wasn't working. So then I used the last resort for every Sankirtan devotee, which is, can you chant Gauranga? He was like, no, I don't believe in nothing. Go away. And that was it. And then I was thinking, the only place he's got nothing is in between the ears. So, what to do? It's Kali Yuga. People they've got no intelligence, they've got no desire to want to learn anything about spirituality. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining about establishing Varnashram here. So how do you establish Varnashram in Kali Yuga? If I said to this chap, which Varna are you? Which ashram are you? And have you heard of Varnashram? You couldn't even have a basic conversation with him. And even as devotees, sometimes we don't take Varnashram serious enough in one sense, Srila Prabhupada said, I've done 50%. When he said I've done 50%, what he meant was 50% was left for his disciples and for us. And he was talking about Varnashram. So, how important is Varnashram within ISKCON? Do we need to think about Varnashram or not think about Varnashram? In one sense, it is not so important because Krishna consciousness is not dependent on Varnashram, because Varnashram is a material institution. By establishing Krishna consciousness, people will naturally develop Brahminical qualities. And on the other hand, it is important Because if we want to spread Krishna consciousness the way Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants it spread, then we have to give people an alternative way of life to what they're living at the moment. Because people are not just interested in sitting at home chanting a few rounds. They want to drastically change their lifestyle. This is my understanding anyway. When I meet people, when we try to cultivate people, we preach so much, but then at the end of the day, they have to go home and carry on with their everyday activities. So there's two ways you can present this class. You can present it, well, Krishna consciousness will solve all the problems, which it does. But at the same time, do we need to also make an effort? According to this purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that if we simply establish Krishna consciousness, then everything else will happen. It will happen. Because we can't establish Varnashram on its own. Varnashram without Krishna consciousness is just a material institution. So therefore we have to look at the goal. What is the goal of life? And Srila Prabhupada explains in that little explanation I spoke earlier that life civilization is meant for becoming a pure devotee and going back to Godhead. But then he also remembers, he mentions at the beginning the importance of protecting cows and maintaining Brahminical culture. Because these things will keep society on a righteous path. Because not everyone's ready to surrender everything to Krishna. Right? We are a very minority. Devotees that, this activity, coming to the morning program, living an ashram life, or even living at home as still an ashram, grahastha ashram. This is a Brahminical way of life, actually. Everything we do in the morning, these are all Brahminical activities. But sometimes we take it for granted and we don't understand that most of the people outside, they are not able to come to this platform so quickly. Yeah. So therefore, they need something. They need a drastic change of lifestyle. So if we give them an alternative, then Krishna consciousness can spread the way Lord Chaitanya wants it to. So the protection of cows is very important. Why? Because the cow is represented in religion, personified. Her milk is liquid religion. And Srila Prabhupada explains, by drinking the milk, we develop finer tissues of the brain. Maybe this guy that I spoke to needs to drink a bit more milk instead of drinking coffee and tea and alcohol. These are the liquids of Kali Yuga. But milk is a liquid of Satya Yuga and the spiritual world. And the cow represents the mother. So a society where they're killing the cow cannot be a society progressing towards God consciousness. Is progressing the opposite way, in a hellish way. And Parikshit Maharaj was very strong. He was a ruler, a righteous ruler. And nowhere in his kingdom was this allowed. So he chastised Kali. And in Brahminical culture, it's very important. It's explained that in Kali Yuga, the Brahmins are living in the pockets of the administration. In other words, the Kshatriyas are controlling the Brahminical class. Why is that? Because the Kshatriyas, therefore, they can't be told what to do by anyone. If we control, and the best way to control is to make them work under them. But a Brahmin is meant to be independent. Independence means that you're free to speak the truth. And when you speak the truth, if you're righteous and you're practicing, then people will listen. So the goal isn't to obtain Krishna consciousness, it isn't obtain the spiritual kingdom. It's not, the goal isn't to go back to Godhead. What is the goal? It becomes artha and moksha. It becomes sense gratification and economic development. Just like the in India, this is very much so. People are following a certain culture there. They're following Varnashram to a certain extent, but because their goal isn't Krishna, then their main goal is just to accumulate wealth. But that's very dangerous, because in the material world, the living entity is transmigrating from one body to another. Yeah. So even though you may be pious, when your pious credits run out, you have to again come down. Right? You have to again come down to a lower level. But Krishna consciousness is so complete that once you put yourself on that path, it's just an upward progression. Yeah. I told you it's been a long time since I gave class. So the whole point is to develop qualities, godly qualities. Because people are only going to be attracted to this movement. They're only going to be attracted to Krishna consciousness when they see that the devotees in this movement are actually developing those qualities. Srila Prabhupada was talking about the atmosphere turning into Satya Yuga. Yeah. How do you do that? How do you turn an atmosphere into Satya Yuga? We can turn the atmosphere into Vaikuntha, right? When you come to the morning program, the atmosphere is like, it's spiritual. You're in a fired up kirtan, it's pumping, everyone's jumping up and down. You're almost on a different level. It's not a material level, it's a spiritual level. But that's all to do with the consciousness. Just like a pure devotee, wherever a pure devotee goes, he turns the place into Vaikuntha, into the spiritual world. Just like Srila Prabhupada. Wherever Prabhupada went, devotees would say the whole atmosphere would change. It would be like the spiritual world. And the sun would always be shining where Prabhupada went as well. Right? And devotee said that. Actually, Prabhupada used to like to travel to places when he knew the sun was going to shine. But wherever he was, the sun was shining anyway. Because he's spiritual. He's Vaikuntha man. So that's how you turn the atmosphere into Satya Yuga. By the consciousness of the devotees. Because ISKCON is not... It's not a material institution. ISKCON is not buildings and money. ISKCON is sadhu sangha. Right? And through that sadhu sangha, one becomes inspired to want to engage in spiritual life. Imagine if someone came here, the building was completely empty. How would they feel? Would they feel inspired? No, they wouldn't. They'll probably look around, walk around the gardens for a bit, and then leave. Right? So sadhu sangha means that you come to a place and you get the association of those devotees. That's why Srila Prabhupada said, Sriram Bhagavatam class is one of the most important activities in the morning program. But how many people come to the temple, they see the deities, and then they go away? Because they haven't understood the real essence of spiritual life, or how to obtain spiritual life. Is to hear. Probably not so much today, but when there's so many qualified Vaishnavas, to hear. Because through the association, this is the essence. This is how we become inspired in our spiritual life. And association is contagious. When you associate with advanced devotees, it inspires the heart. And what does it inspire us to want to do? Engage in devotional service. Sri Narottam Das Thakur said that devotional service in any place is the last word in spiritual perfection. I mean, it's a very short but very profound words. Devotional service at any place is the last word in spiritual perfection. So he's saying you don't need to go here and there, and you don't even need to go to the holy places in one sense. But if you simply engage in devotional service wherever you are, in the association of the Vaishnavas, then you can make at least your own life, you can turn your own heart into Satya Yuga or Vaikuntha. And then whoever else we come in contact with, they will also be inspired. Yeah. So here it's explaining Kali Kalera Dharma, Kali Kalera Dharma, Krishna Nama Sankirtan. In this age of Kali, the most fundamental religious system is to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport. And Srila Prabhupada says here, if we simply chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then we can turn the world into Satya Yuga. But of course it's not so straightforward as that, is it? Because we chant the Mahamantra and, are we living in Vaikuntha or are we living in Satya Yuga? We're not. We're still living in Kali Yuga. So we follow the rules and regulations and associate with the Vaishnavas in a very nice way, we associate with devotees not in a critical mood, not in a challenging mood, and we have to be very careful how we deal with each other. Because if we don't deal with each other properly, then we commit offences. And then by committing the offences, when we chant the Mahamantra, it doesn't have the effect that it should have. Yeah. So this is a Sankirtan movement. Sankirtan movement means that Sankirtan is meant for everyone, not just for ourselves. The more we give Krishna to others, the more Krishna will reciprocate with us. When the sages of Naimisharanya they were thinking, it's Kali Yuga now, what are we going to do to help people in Kali Yuga? So they decided, let's do this fire sacrifice. Let's do this yajna. Because they were from Dwapara Yuga. But Kali Yuga had just arrived. So they were thinking, what can we do? So they started doing these yajnas, these fire yajnas. And Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that they were feeling they weren't feeling satisfied, they were feeling despair. The smoke of the yajna was like compared to this despair. Despair means that they weren't fully confident that this yajna was going to work. Yeah. But then when Sukadeva Goswami came, he started performing kirtan, because speaking Bhagavatam is also kirtan. And then immediately it's explained that this smoke of despair was lifted. Because in this age of Kali, this is the only process really to perform Sankirtan. And for a devotee, of course we have our service as well. So there's nothing beyond our devotional service to Guru and Krishna. We shouldn't be thinking, sorry, I'm just going back to that other verse, Narottam Das Thakur said, devotional service is the last place It is the last word in spiritual perfection. We shouldn't be thinking that I'm engaging in this devotional activities and I'm going to get something better. Devotional service is the beginning and it's the end. Right? Why do we engage in devotional service? Is it because I want to achieve something higher? No, we should just want to develop the only higher thing that we should develop is our consciousness, or our motivation and our mood, how and why are we engaging in this service. I'm engaging in service, am I going to get a better position? Am I going to get something better? I'm going to go somewhere better, which is going to make me feel better? No. The service that is given to us by Guru and Krishna is the highest. There's nothing beyond that, and we just have to develop the mood, the right mood, in order to engage in that service. And then when we chant Hare Krishna, the Maha Mantra will purify our heart. So this is the only way we're going to make everything turn into Satya Yuga. When Prabhupada writes things, we sometimes look at him and we think, well, you know, like you said, it's easier said than done. But Prabhupada's thinking on the absolute platform, because he's actually experiencing this, so therefore he can, this is his realization. And when we look at it, because we're not on this level, sometimes we think, well, is that possible? Is it possible to establish Varnashram? Is it possible to turn the whole world into Satya Yuga? Because we don't have the faith ourselves. Therefore, in order to understand these, we really need to purify our hearts. Not just understand it, but to have faith that what Srila Prabhupada is saying, what Srila Prabhupada is writing here is possible. Unless we actually purify ourselves, then we won't have the faith that this is possible. And if we don't have the faith, then when we preach Krishna consciousness, people will not be attracted as much as they should be. Yeah. So this is my realization on this verse, how to turn the place into Vaikuntha, or Satya Yuga, is to first work on our own purification, our own anarthas. Be careful in our dealings with other Vaishnavas. And when we do preach, that we have to be conscious about people outside. Actually, Bhaktivedanta Swami gave a very nice seminar. And I've been meditating on that actually, quite a lot. Especially when I was on Sankirtan that day, I was looking at people in a completely different way, like I usually do. When someone's rude, it's very easy to become critical of them. But after listening to that seminar, I was thinking in a different way. I was thinking, no, actually, I'm not better than them. How am I better than them? The one famous Sankirtan devotee once, Harinamananda, he said something very profound. He said that the only difference between them and us is that we have the book and they don't. Simple, but it's quite deep if you think about it. The only difference is that we have the book and they don't. So how am I any better than them? I've got the mercy. Yeah? But they can very easily also have the mercy if they're willing to accept. So so the whole day I was thinking like this. And it was very purifying. I felt very purified at the end of the day, because I'd done my service in the right mood, in the right consciousness, and I felt that Krishna was happy. And then when I saw Maharaj the next day in the temple, I thanked him for that seminar. I said, Maharaj, it was a very nice seminar, I would have thanked you for. And I told him, I said, I actually practiced it, I used it in my... He said, did it work? I said, yes. Until someone was rude. I'm still working on it, by the way. So this is how to turn the place into Vaikuntha. When you go to a temple, I've heard a lot of stories about Chowpatty temple. I've never been there myself, but I constantly hear really good things about that temple. that you go there and the devotees are just so willing to serve you. Why is that? Because those devotees are getting empowered by their spiritual master. And it's Radhanath Maharaj's temple. They're serving under him. And they see everyone that comes as a eternal servant of Krishna. And therefore those people are their servants as well. And when you go into an atmosphere like that, I can imagine it's just very pleasant to be. Very pleasant to be there. And it would be like being in Satya Yuga, because that's how people were in that age. So this is kind of my realization with this verse here. Pure devotees turn everything into Vaikuntha wherever they go. Therefore we have to also become pure. Becoming a pure devotee is the goal of life. It should be the goal of life for everyone. And then Varnashram will be established. We have to also make an effort. But within Krishna consciousness, all the qualities develop. Yasasya bhakti bhagavati kinchana. Sarve gunas tatra samasite suraha. Haru bhaktasya kuto mahakuna manaratana siti davuto bahi. For one who has unflinching devotion to the lotus feet of the Lord, that person develops all the good qualities of the demigods. But it said that one who does not have devotion only has material qualities, because he's hovering on a mental plane, and he's just a matter of time before he's attracted again to the material energy. So we have to develop unflinching devotion for Krishna, and then the qualities will come. The qualities of the demigods. And then whoever we preach to, whoever we speak to, they will be inspired, and they'll want to. People do feel when they come to devotional service, when they associate with devotees, they do feel that there's something here different, you know. I had one contact recently, came to the temple, and he was in some difficulty. His mother passed away, and he just rang me, just wanting to speak. Out of everyone, he rang me. Because he'd come to the temple, he feels inspired with the devotees somehow, so he wanted to speak to a devotee. I'm trying to be a devotee. So he wanted to speak to a devotee, so I just spoke to him. I wasn't preaching to him, you know, you should chant Hare Krishna. I was just listening and slipping in a bit here and there, you know. Be nice to them. And when they see that we're developing nice qualities, or at least we're trying to develop nice qualities, and that will inspire people. That's the goal of Varnashram. Atapum bidvizashtesta. Varnashram vibhagas. Svanutasya dhamasya samsiddhi haritoshanam. The goal is, of Varnashram, engaging in your activity, is to please Krishna. Please the spiritual master. Yeah. And when we go out of our way to develop our own spiritual life and give Krishna to others, then that's the best way to please. And of course be absorbed in our service. And make sure we don't commit offences. And then the whole world can become Satya Yuga. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Today's any questions? It's Madhavacharya's disappearance day. I was asked to say a few words. Should we just have a question first from the class? Any questions?